Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us in this next video of ours where we carry on talking about tips, suggestions, ideas that can enhance, can improve our quality of life. We have been dealing now recently with topics involving stress, phases of stress, the origins of stress, and now we're going to dedicate some time dealing with other aspects of our life, which are extremely important and not directly, not linearly connected to stress, stress reduction, stress origins, stress elimination. This is important because we living a good life depends on wisdom, and wisdom can be achieved. Wisdom can be built on the basis of knowledge. Among other things, knowledge is something that is important because once knowledge is acquired from a trustworthy source, from works and from people who can be trusted in what they affirm and what they utter, this can take us to a better understanding of ourselves, and this better understanding of ourselves can in turn convert itself into wisdom, and wisdom is definitely a path we all wish to go through. So we were talking about dealing with stress, which is the human being when he is in the alert mode. It's the human being when he is turned on, he is working on an increased rhythm, on increased intensity, with an increased output of energy. We could say that stress is sort of, right from its original conception, stress is something that comes as an abnormal, strenuous challenge, which is not exactly how we work outside of stress. We work outside of stress and we can pass a great deal of our life, a great part of our time, of our days, of our weeks, we can pass without being specifically stressed, without being specifically overtaxed, overwhelmed by some challenge, by some adversity. So it is extremely important in these moments when we are at ease, these moments when things are kind of going on the right path, have strategies, have attitudes, choose paths which can enhance our health, which can enhance our well-being, which can strengthen our resilience, because a great deal of our resilience is built when we are well, not when we are stressed. Once we get stressed, then the factors we gathered, we strengthened, while not stressed, can enhance our resilience during the stressful experience. Something like the heart rate. Those of us who practice exercises know that if anyone here, me, you, anyone who is watching this video, were to make a great effort or suddenly race at a very high speed, our heart rates will all go up. But then who is the resilient of us? The more resilient I am, the quicker, the faster my heart rate will come back to resting levels. That's resilience. So once the stress has stopped, I stopped running, I stopped racing, I stopped making an effort, how quick does my heart rate return to basal levels? And this is acquired outside stress. So I contribute for my resilience, for my heart rate resilience, when I am out of exercise as well as when I am practicing exercise. So to sleep well after exercise is an excellent way of building our resilience, where our heart learns how to slow down better and quicker. Very didactic here and being very, very, very illustrative in what I'm saying, but the idea is basically that in resting condition, in relaxed condition, we build our resilience for when we are under stress, under a strain. These next videos we are going to be talking, they will refer a lot to the art of being human. In Portuguese, a arte de ser humano. There's a language game here we play, which is human being and being human are both expressed in the same way, in the same fashion. And being, like in English, can refer to a verb to be, but it also can refer to a noun, a being, an ontos, something, in Greek, ontos, something that is a noun. So I am a being, and I am being human. So there's a joke we say in Portuguese, but in English, unfortunately, we can't do it. But then you have the idea of being human, of a human being, involves art. And then you say, oh, really? Yes. I mean, you can simply despise the idea and say, okay, I'm born, I'm here. I don't want to waste my time thinking on these things. Perfect. But if you want to think on the cultural weight that falls on top of you, that comes over you when you live, when you exist, many habits I have, come from 6,000, 8,000, 20,000 years ago. So there is a weight of civilization that is called nurture, and then you always have this discussion, this talk, is nature and nurture. Who is who? Usually nature means biological predisposition, constitutional predispositions, and culture would be that which is vehicled, which comes through our social means. Of course, these things are not perfectly separable. They have a considerable overlapping, one with the other. But basically, what we think of when we talk of a human being is both nature and nurture. Well, now we are going to talk predominantly about nature. Not that nurture won't come in. You'll see that. But we're talking basically about our predisposition as human beings. I recall a talk with a dear friend of mine who cut out something, and he said, look, whenever you think about mankind, human being, civilization, history, you must take into consideration, you must account for the fact that the human being is aggressive. Human being is an aggressive creature. Yes, in fact, there's no doubt about that. But the point is, we are not only aggressive. There's something more there. And the second thing is, we have two kinds of aggression. We have aggressiveness and we have aggressivity. And when we talk about the less hostile form of aggressiveness, of being aggressive, the non-hostile, the non-belligerent, the not warful aspect of being aggressive, then we talk about the idea that I go into the environment and I change the environment for a more convenient one for myself. Give you an example. Imagine yourself 25,000 years ago, and you're living in a place where it's always raining. You're always getting wet. Remember, no umbrellas, no clothing, And so what do? You just find yourself a high place in that valley, a higher place where it never floods. You clean up the vegetation and you make yourself a hut. And this hut will protect you from the stronger consequences of rain. That is aggressive. You moved from where you were. You chose yourself a place. You cleaned the vegetation from that place. You built yourself a hut. You modified that part of the valley for your convenience. That's aggressive. In that sense, we are extremely aggressive. And in that sense, finding strategy to live better lives is definitely aggressive. But note, no hostility involved, no fury involved, no hatred involved. Besides being aggressive and hostile, which we are also loving. And there is a growing corpus of evidence that suggests that the secret for our success as a species, if we think of numbers as a parameter for success, we are 7 billion. A few mammals reach these numbers. I'm not sure there is, maybe oxen or sheep may reach a similar number, but these are domesticated. We outgrew the other species. So one of the secrets of this huge success of ours might be the fact that we are compassive. We can be compassionate. I would say more. Most of the time, we are being compassionate. When I see a child and I choose to help the parent carrying the little child up or doing something of the kind, I'm being compassionate. And this capacity of solidarity, compassion, empathy might be even stronger than our aggressive traits. So, our nature is something that brings us a lot of surprises. And dealing with this nature might show itself as an art. I'll just finish here saying the following. Art, in Greek, is techniki. Techniki translates as art in the sense of artistic creativity and excellent executions. So we have these two aspects: an excellent, primorous execution and artistic creativity. In our midst, that's what we are talking about. And this is what we are talking about here. The art of being human, which means you can be a human being or you can be a being who lives a life worth living. I'll say it again. Living a life which is worth being lived. There might not be any other possible way to understand happiness. Doesn't mean free of adversity, doesn't mean free of suffering, doesn't mean free of going through challenges and facing some tough situations, but a life which is worthwhile being lived. That's an art. It's not given. It's not about privileges we inherited from previous generations. We inherited a lot of things, but it's not about an inherited advantage, material advantage, whatever. It is about what we do with ourselves and what we do to ourselves. There, where no one else can do anything for us. I mean, I can be put in school, but the decision to study is still mine. I can be taken and taught all the best good manners possible on earth. Still, I'm going to use these good manners precisely in the proportion which I choose to use them. And there is something that is inherent. It is basically within our nature, which is the choice, the possibility of choice. And that is something only we can do. Only you can choose. Whatever you don't choose is either a duty or a circumstance, whatever. But wherever you can choose, that is the key for happiness. Our last video about stress was the exposition, the exposure to stress. And hopefully we showed there how our inner disposition can contribute for a better or a worse reception of whatever life offers us. And that is a trigger for stress. So now we are going to deal with what exposes us to stress and what we can do about ourselves when we are not stressed. When we talk about being human in the resting state, as we say, 4 aspects we will be dealing with in the next videos. These 4 about our nature and the art of being human. The first of all is there is something about us we must bear in mind, is the fact that, number 1, we are bodily beings. Or you say, oh, you don't say we are bodily. Yes, I do. Because we are bodily, but we don't always take that into consideration, not sufficiently. So when we are working, when we are dealing with things, are we sufficiently comfortable where we are sat? When we are dealing with people, are we sufficiently comfortable with the temperature? Not that we have to have the temperature at our disposal. Not that seats have to be made to our tailored to our measures. But if I am not comfortable, it's extremely important I be aware of that, because that can help me get through that moment, get less irritable, get less annoyed, get less impatient. So wherever you are, your body is there. Talking perhaps, but I've left my body. Okay, well, we're not going into these kinds of experiences. We're going to stay with what happens to most of us most of the time. We are always on our bodies. The second aspect is extremely important to bear in mind when we are dealing with these topics, is that we are able to host conflict. That might sound easy, that might sound obvious, but it is not. We are able to host conflict, conflictive information, conflictive ideas, conflictive values. Now, this doesn't mean some kind of weakness. It means we are complex. It is extremely important to understand we can host conflict. A third aspect that's different to other species. Other animals don't have these kinds of conflicts we go through. The third aspect is we are able to harbor pacification. We are able to harbor appeasing. So we can host conflict and we can harbor peace. And that is extremely important. That is another aspect we do not share with other species. Other species are peaceful when they're peaceful and there is no conflict there and there is no other complications. We have this peculiar capacity, which is being able to pacify ourselves. There is a fourth aspect, which is extremely important, which is we are able to weave our lives in the direction of building something. So we can build our life, and our lives they are built in a crescendo of positive attitudes we go having throughout the days, throughout the weeks, throughout the months, throughout the years. So it is a cumulative weaving of our different attitudes that give us micro corrections in our direction, which in our route, when on the long run turned out to bring collectively, the collective of these attitudes brings us to a better scenario. And that includes the kinds of friends we choose, the people we decide to have close to us, the choices we make in our daily chores and strivings, all these things. The way I say hello to my neighbor can have influence in that sense. And so we have this capacity to kind of go sewing up our existence. These four aspects are extremely important to understand what we will be talking about in our next meetings. Thank you very much for having followed us. If you enjoyed the video, give us a like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel to catch up on the other videos which relate to this one you have just watched. Thank you very much.